Would you like to discover the 5 emotions that cause a man to choose you? Hi, I'm Broderick Boyd.
And I'm Antia Boyd.
And for the last 20 years combined, we've been helping successful single women to attract the right man for them to share their life with and be happier. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more future videos on this. And make sure to get our free Magnetize Your Man quiz in the description below as well.
Now let's start with emotion number 5, masculinity.
Yes, it's so important that a man feels masculine. That's one of the biggest things that's going to cause him to feel attraction, passion, chemistry, and ultimately fall in love. Because when a man feels masculine, he's going to feel like he can really provide for you. He can really take leadership in the relationship and help you to have an enjoyable experience. If he doesn't feel like he can be a man for you, like he can be your hero, he can be your champion, then he's going to feel like, what am I doing here? What's the point? I'm putting in all this effort, but it doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem to be making her happy. You know, little things like opening the door for you or whatever he might start doing, making decisions. If he doesn't feel like he's appreciated for that, or he doesn't feel like there's space for him to actually take that initiative, then he's going to feel essentially worthless as a man. Essentially, like there's no reason for him to be there.
Yeah, and it's really important for a man to know that he can make you happy, right? So let's bring an example of when you met me, because I always love to ask Brody those kind of questions. Like, how did you know that you could make me happy?
I think when we were dating, I felt like I could make you happy because I was able to make decisions as far as like, hey, let's go hang out here. And I remember one time when she had actually tried to break up with me, but
for like 2 hours.
For 2 hours, but she had actually left her towel in my backpack. And so I texted her and I said, oh, your towel's in my backpack. I'm still in this area. Do you want to pick it up? I didn't even know she had been trying to break up with me, but apparently she was, because that was her pattern.
It was like in the beginning stages of
This is like the second month or so after we started dating, after we first started dating. And she came and got the backpack. I got the towel from my backpack. And then I think I just kissed you then. Mm-hmm. And then I said, let's hang out. And she said, okay. And so that was an example, like she was trying to control the dynamic by breaking up with me out of her anxiety patterns, resistance patterns, whatever it was. But she had surrendered enough to allow me to try to, keep things going, keep the dynamic going, and take that leadership. And that allowed us to reconnect and continue dating. And I was able to also feel like that she wanted that, And a masculine man, he's going to pay attention to you and he's going to see, does she seem to like this? Is she enjoying this? And he'll continue to take that initiative and step up as long as he feels you're enjoying it and that he's doing a good job. And so that's why we'll move into the next piece, which is also really important to help with this.
Which is appreciation. Yummy!
Yes, emotion number 4. So appreciation, what is appreciation?
Well, I mean, to me, when I look into our own marriage, we've been married now for 6.5 years as we are shooting this video. If you watch this later, but we're shooting it right now on December 21st, 2020. I appreciate Brody all the time. Like when he picks a right place to drive to, I always say, after church, like, hey, where do you want to go? And then I just let him make the decision. And then I appreciate him for making that decision, or for just getting me a glass of water, like when I'm already laying in bed, or just like the smallest things. Ladies, if you're like, well, there's nothing I can appreciate. Guaranteed, if I look into your life, there is something you can appreciate about your man. Even if you feel like that's silly, that's ridiculous. But when it's heartfelt, it means just as much.
Yes, appreciation is one of those keys, like what we talked about before, that actually will encourage a man to want to chase you, pursue you, be the masculine, take that masculine role, and really just invest in the relationship. Because why would somebody invest into something that they don't feel like they're getting anything out of it? And one of the biggest things, the easiest things you can do to give back to a man, to help him know, to reward him for his behavior that you like, is appreciation and saying thank you, or saying, I love how strong you are, or I love how you're always, taking charge when we go out together and you're making decisions. It's so sexy. So you're appreciating him for those things that you actually do admire. Don't fake it, but look for those things you actually admire about him. What do you think is masculine, sexy, attractive, strong? That's also helping, because that's, again, contributing to part one, which is lifting his masculinity. They go really together, these two emotions. When he feels appreciated, when he feels masculine, he's going to feel like, wow, this is a woman I could really win with. This is a woman I could really see myself having a harmonious long-term relationship, because I'm not even really trying that hard and I feel like appreciated. Or maybe he is trying and that's even more important, that he feels appreciated. But either way, it feels like he's now in a game that he can win, and that's exciting to him. And that makes him feel like, wow, I could actually see myself long-term being in this situation. So that's why it's so important to have those two emotions in your relationship with a man and dating with a man.
Number 3 is pleasure, right? Does he feel pleasure in your presence? Does he feel good about himself?
Yeah. Does he feel like, I'm having a good time? I mean, this is basic psychology. We're going back to the very, very basics of pleasure and pain, right? The things that motivate somebody to do anything, right? That's that standard, the carrot and the stick. We tend to always seek pleasure, and we tend to always avoid pain as living creatures. So just to be aware of that when you're dating a guy, and saying, are you providing him with a fun experience? Are you providing him with a great experience? Are you feeling good? That's one of the easiest ways to actually transmit pleasure to a man, is by you having pleasure. And so, because emotions are contagious, we have cells in our brain that are called mirror neurons, and they're designed to pick up the emotions and thoughts of those around us. And we can't even help it oftentimes. So when you're feeling good, when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling like you're having fun, when you're feeling pleasure yourself, enjoyment, he can't even help but start to feel those emotions as well when he's with you. So that's why it's so important when you're on a first date, when you're on a second date, to relax, let go of the outcome, have fun, see what happens, let it be organic. And that way, when he's away from you, people don't tend to fall in love when they're with you. They tend to fall in love when they're away from you, thinking about you. When he's away from you, he'll be remembering, wow, I had such a good time with Jennifer. It was so much fun. Or with Antia, I had such a good time. Just like when we were dating, I remember feeling like, wow, that was actually really fun, hanging out with her, going to the beach, going to parties that she ignored me at. That wasn't fun. We have our whole journey. You'll learn more as you watch our videos.
Right.
But yeah, so we had some interesting times in our first 3 months of dating before we became exclusive. But yeah, so the basic idea of that pleasure was actually one of the big things that kept me coming back, just enjoying it. And these you're starting to see that all these kind of go together as well, but there are different distinctions for each. Do you want to mention anything else on pleasure?
No, that's it. Like, I was just thinking more about going more deeper into what we talked about in the beginning stages of our relationship, but
sure,
we'll leave that for another video.
You can mention a little bit more.
Well, I just wanted to say, it was just I was basically kicking and screaming, because while sort of like my ego self wanted to have a relationship, my nervous system didn't want that so much. Like, because I was not used to that. I was used to emotionally unavailable men. So then I actually became the avoidant in the relationship, while Brody stayed secure.
And actually, that's a good piece, because we'll be mentioning this in, I think, emotion number 1. We'll talk more about how that played into us dating as well. So that is the power of pleasure.
Feeling number 2 is support. Does he feel supported by you? Now, I know so many women come to me all the time and they say they want to feel supported by their men, but hello, men just want to feel just as supported by you. Just, it's a different way. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's this old saying that if 2 heads think exactly alike, 1 head isn't needed. And what that means is that if both of you are coming to the relationship without having anything to offer the other person, there's not really a reason to be together, and that's why masculine feminine polarity is so important. That's also why support is so important, and actually to be conscious of how are you contributing to his life. And of course, you want him to contribute to your life. But there's this old saying as well that, like, if you want to start a fire, first you have to put in some fuel. First you have to put in the wood, the kindling to start that fire. So oftentimes you give first, and you contribute that which you want to receive, without expectation of having it in return, but just giving to give. And then, of course, watching, is he contributing back as well? Is he contributing that support back as well? So often it's super powerful for you to start a relationship with actually giving what you want to give, giving that support. And how can you support a man? A lot of the ways we already said. But think about the feminine essence inside of you. Femininity is the opposite of everything that is masculinity. Masculinity is the opposite of everything that is femininity. One of the aspects of femininity that's so different than masculinity is this nurturing mother force. I'm not saying you're not going to mother a man, no way. But that nurturing element to his little boy, because every man has a little boy inside. And if you can give a little bit of that sense of nurturing, that sense of kindness, support, unconditional support, really, that can start to make his inner boy feel really safe and really start to actually fall in love. I believe that's one of the things that makes a man fall in love the quickest, when he feels like his little boy inside is safe when he's around you. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, totally. That's what I really got in a relationship, in a marriage with Brody, is that really like protecting sort of like the man's heart, right? Because so when we start to date a little longer and we actually got real access to a man's heart and also have the capacity to break it and to hurt him, right? That's actually when it's about like really protecting it, right? Really making sure you don't emasculate a man, right? And you're really feeling like how much effort he puts into the relationship, you know, and how much he tries to, and he gives his best, and yeah, being really supportive of that, and just like supporting him when he shares things that are maybe vulnerable or maybe they're even like shame-filled, and that maybe even make you feel uncomfortable as well, but still staying with him and in a way working on normalizing that, right? And being like, yeah, we're all going through things and we're all making mistakes. We'll all make mistakes. Like I've never met anyone, I've got thousands of single women all over the world, and I've never met any woman who's like perfect, right? And of course, men are not excluded from that.
Yeah, and I'll mention one last distinction here, because I know, you know, there's that voice out there that's saying, well, I've given to men in the past and I've supported him and I've mothered him and I got nothing in return and he cheated on me or blah, blah, blah. And yes, that can happen. So this is the big caveat with this is, again, you want to give unconditionally, give to give, support him, give what you want to receive in return without expectation of that return. So it's unconditional. And then you can watch over time. So if you're like, let's give it 30 days, 60 days. If you're like seriously, you know, dating a guy and you're doing that for 30, 60 days, and at the end of that 30 or 60 days, you're not noticing anything really coming back from him, that he seems to just be taking that support, he's not really contributing back in a relationship, that's the point when you have to start setting boundaries. You have to have a conversation with him about that, or stop doing that and basically say, you know, I don't know if this is going to work for me. You know, I'm not feeling like this is, you know, I'm getting what I need out of this relationship, and this just might not be the right fit. So that's where you have to have that harder conversation, and that's a big key with that as well. But remember, the support piece is so key to ultimately having a man fall in love too. And I think when you do that with most men, he's not going to want to lose that. He's not going to want to lose that. So he will either step up or the right man will come into the picture.
And finally, number one, you challenge him. He feels challenged.
Yes, challenge. And what goes along with this is hope as well. And we'll explain how these two interconnect.
Yeah, so when I say challenge, or when we say challenge, it's really about, you know, you don't just say yes and amen and yes, everything you want, my dear, right? And you always agree with him. But also, of course, you're holding your own in the relationship. So there's absolutely no way that you could always agree with every single thing. You're coming from different backgrounds, different beliefs, and so on. So a man actually very much enjoys it when a woman is holding her own, has her own beliefs. You know, sometimes Brody tells me this or that about me, and then I just like, you know, served right back at him. And what I feel or think about that, right? I just have to think about an example right now, but he makes sometimes comments, you know, and how I dance or something like that, right? But I just like love how I dance, right? It's like very goofy and very silly and all of that, right? So it's about like you owning yourself, and a man is going to find this very attractive. But you better hear from Brody about what impact that has.
A good example is the Christmas lights. Like I was like, she wanted to get Christmas lights, and I was like, it's a lot of work, and I'm like, we have to go to the store, we're gonna have to spend a lot of money, and she's like, no, I want Christmas lights outside and inside and everywhere. So,
and a Santa and a snowman and a reindeer and candy canes.
Yeah, so she really stayed, you know, true to her desires, and we ended up getting the Christmas lights and putting them up, and then, you know, she was really happy from that, so I got to feel good that I made her happy. and helped contribute to that. And yet she was staying true to herself. And, we worked together. You were willing to work a little bit, with some compromises around it. So that way I was happy with it also. And yeah, it looks nice. So, so that's like a good example, but there's like many examples like that. But yeah, so the idea is, there's that old saying, people want what they can't have, or, playing hard to get, or people chase that which runs away from them. So there's like these old sayings, and there's some truth in a lot of those. But the idea is that people don't tend to value that which comes too easy. And then there's others. There's so many old sayings. The other one, why would they buy the milk if they can get it for free? And all these old sayings. So the idea is that you're valuing yourself, and by valuing yourself, you naturally become a challenge to men. When you have high standards about the kind of man you're with, and also the kind of behaviors you're accepting from a man, and you're setting boundaries when you're not getting those standards met, that's naturally going to be a challenge, because he's going to say, oh, if I want to be with her, I got to kind of step up to meet these standards, which a lot of guys will do that if there's some interest there. If you've been doing the other 4 steps we have here, this one will actually kind of come naturally, because you'd be like, well, I want to be with her, so I'm going to step up. And here's the other thing. Guys often feel challenged. They appreciate the challenge. So they appreciate the idea of them becoming a better man. Like, most guys want to be a better man. They want to be more valuable to women because, like we mentioned before, they want to make you happy. Man's fundamental purpose is to live his purpose and ultimately to provide for his woman, his children, his family, his tribe. So there's a genetic fundamental level where men feel called to serve. They feel called to be challenged, to meet those challenges. That's the masculine journey. So setting those boundaries, setting those standards, setting those boundaries when needed, and that will also give him hope that he could actually meet that at some point, that he could be with you, and that he can step into that better version of himself. You want to mention anything else on that?
No, that's it. So
yeah, so what I would say, well, actually, I want to say one last thing about challenge is the key with this as well is that you can also communicate to him what your standards are. You can set those boundaries. Oftentimes, that's the best way of setting the boundaries. And you challenge a man also by making it very clear to him how he can win. That's the last piece I want to mention with that. What's next after you've learned these 5 emotions? Well, next you're going to need to actually integrate this into your dating process, both where to find the right kind of quality men to be with, as well as how to attract them and get them to want to chase you and commit, which there's a lot more involved with this, as you might have seen from our hints as we go through these emotions. So in order to do that, again, like, comment, subscribe. That'll help us with the YouTube algorithm, and you'll get more amazing videos like this delivered to you right away, especially if you click that bell, it'll be into your inbox. And we created a new powerful playlist for you, a free course, which is our How to Get a Man to Chase You playlist. So you can get that by clicking the box over here, and we have our quiz.
Our free Magnetize Your Man quiz. If you click on the link below or go to magnetizeyourman.com, and you also get personalized dating strategy just for you at the end of it.
So much love, and we'll talk to you again in our future videos. Bye-bye.
Mwah!